You're welcome back from the break. And as I've always been saying, this is the 2021 edition of Business Roundtable. And it is powered by Ishmael Yamson and Associates. So the program is being brought to you by Ishmael Yamson and Associates. And we here at Metro TV are supporting it very, very well. So I'm sure you've been enjoying the program right from the beginning in the morning, and you are taking quite a number of notes and points. You are putting down your questions as well. It's been a learning curve for me, and I'm sure for you who is and an astute banking professional with over 2 decades experience. Kwamina's career spans the globe, having worked in some of the world's most prestigious financial institutions, including the International Finance Corporation, AfESC, JP Morgan Chase & Co., and Goldman Sachs & Co., and he has provided strategic and financial advisory services to multinational corporations, governments, and high net worth clients. He has a passion for excellence in all that he does and enjoys mentoring young, spirited professionals. And of course, that is why he agreed to be part of the panel today to mentor, to speak to us, the youth, on how we can shape ourselves and move forward into the future. As Mrs. Charlotte Osei would say, take charge. The current dispensation has failed us. We need to take charge. So Kwamina is here to give us his presentation. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I'll call on all of you to join me, even though I have the singular honor to do the welcome. Kindly join me, welcome Kwamina Asomaning.
Thank you very much, Kwesi, and good morning to our listeners online and in the studios. It is a great pleasure to be here to talk about something else other than banking. Even though I'm a banker today, I'm going to stay away from banking and talk about the youth. I start by extending a big thanks to Mr. Michael Yamson from Ishmael Yamson and Associates for the opportunity, and also to our sponsors and to the media. So the focal point for my discussion today is on, I spent 10 years in the US and I came back in 2010. And as an induction back into the country, my father took me to his hometown. And at first I thought he was parading me just to show that his son had come back. But I realized that he was teaching me a life lesson. So he took me across a cluster of houses that housed his cousins and I guess my cousins. And he shared a few important truths to me. I think the first was that he highlighted how, across the generations of cousins that had had access to education or to some vocational opportunities have fared well. But I think the other lesson which struck me quite strongly was the fact that for the siblings, so his grandfather and his siblings, his grandmother, his siblings, his parents, his siblings, etc., who had taken it upon themselves to support a member of their family to either pursue education or pursue a vocational calling, they had also done much better than those who didn't have that. It was his way of letting me understand that, the system that we have in Africa requires us not only to depend on the formal support systems, but also the personal support systems where I myself should always look for opportunities to support others. But as I was going back home with him, and I reflected on our conversation, I realized that our youth could be categorized into 3 buckets. So the first bucket comprises those deprived who have sort of challenging financial circumstances. And a lot of the speakers before me have discussed the role of poverty. In fact, I believe that 95% of our problems in Africa is poverty-driven. But you do have those youth who are not academically capable, but they're gifted with their hands. And at the beginning, I did talk about the 3 H's, the head, the heart, and the hand, as a holistic approach to youth development. The second comprises those who can pursue academic heights, but after completing basic education, they have to stop because they can't go further either into university or into a science, technology, education, and mathematics background, STEM. And I believe Sheila spoke about it quite strongly. And so it was almost a given that all of us would, myself and my two siblings, would study STEM subjects up to the A level. So I studied physics, chemistry, and all the way to the A level. I thought I wanted to be an engineer, but I saw the world evolving around me, and finance was a lot more topical. It was a lot more interesting at the time, and so I evolved into finance. But I would say that while my experience was in the third bucket, for the majority of youth, they find themselves in the first and the second bucket. And that's where, my focus on poverty would be today. Free, compulsory, basic education, and then the free SHS. But the lack of infrastructure, and I know there'll be questions about financing for education. But as a banker, as I think about, agriculture sector, but as a banker, as I think about the agriculture sector, the biggest source of risk is the variability between the plan and then the outcome. And science and technology can be used to address that through irrigation and, genetic selection of crops, and so on and so forth. And so I'm a big believer in STEM. And I believe Sheila spoke about it quite extensively. So I wouldn't dwell on that point too much. But the point about STEM is not to play down other social sciences or other forms of education. But if you speak to a few of the university professors, they will tell you that a lot of the students come into university and they realize that not having done some foundational STEM courses, it becomes difficult for them to pursue their career choices in the university because they are missing some foundational blocks. So I believe the first foundational block that we have to embrace as a country is STEM. The second is learning by doing. And Sheila stole my favorite statement. Give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. Teach him to fish, and you feed him for a lifetime. But I think that as leaders, we need to place a much greater emphasis on vocational learning and disabuse the minds of our youth that the university title and university route is an assured path for achieving career success. The country has always known the importance of vocational. We had 70. I believe that the number has gone up. But if you look at the number of polytechnics, which have now, some of them have evolved into technical universities, it still stayed at 10. So my question is, and I don't know how many of you use the services of a plumber, but one of the most, for the youth to have the ability to use their hands to solve real problems. I've heard about the robotics academy where the youth are learning, the foundations of robotics just to, learn a trick or two about automation. And these are all interventions that are quite useful. Just to highlight how important apprenticeship is as a means of embedding vocational learning, we can look to the US and the UK, and they have a National Apprenticeship Week. And this is a week where business leaders, career seekers, and other critical partners, come together to provide apprenticeship sponsors with opportunities to showcase their programs and facilities. And I think that in Ghana, if we should have an apprenticeship week where, corporate Ghana, and express sympathy to Edison regarding the various failed experiments and the lack of results. Edison countered by saying that I have not failed, not once. I have discovered 10,000 ways that don't work. It sort of vividly illustrates why our talented youth need support to experiment, to brainstorm and to co-create. I know there's been a lot of discussion about the lack of financing as a hindrance, but I believe that ability to learn by doing is an important pillar that we need to discuss. Finally, I'll just talk about what Stanbic has done to help the youth to realize their dreams. In 2019, in August 2019, we launched the Stanbic Bank Incubator. It's a community. Think of it as a community that provides business advisory, coaching, mentorship, and market facilitation access to entrepreneurs and startups. And it also provides an opportunity for bank staff to mentor up-and-coming youth and entrepreneurs. I think that this is one example of how we can, support, corporate Ghana can support apprenticeship and learning by doing within the youth space. So I'd like to conclude at this point, happy to take some questions afterwards. But I'll say that the importance of the youth in Africa cannot be overemphasized. In Ghana, our youth, parents, and then the youth themselves, in terms of the choices they make. My hope is that through these conversations, we can devise workable solutions to increase the focus and investments in vocational and technical training, and then we can shift policy and financial support towards effective career counseling and entrepreneurship, mentorship, and then subject choices at school to give you that foundational block that makes you very adaptable. So thank you very much for that. I'll stop here.
Right. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Kwamina Asomaning, the Chief Executive Officer of Stanbic Bank Ghana. I remember a few days ago when I was